Welcome back to this week's episode of The Writer's Room. I'm your host, Tessa Durrell, and today I'm joined by Adam Engel and Abby Cage. So first off, I'm going to talk to you guys about your position with the O'Colly. You guys are both co-editors-in-chief. So what is that like working together here at the O'Colly?
Well, for me to be co-editors-in-chief, I actually really like it because I feel like Abby and I, we complement each other well with different skill sets. Like for me, I'm more of a writer, and Abby's more of a designer, a photographer. I didn't know, like we use this software program called InDesign. I had no idea how to do it, any of it, until like last week. And so that just shows that we have different skill sets, and like I said, it complements each other well because of that.
Yeah, we're able to build off of each other's different skill sets, and then also we're able to build off each other's strengths that are similar as well.
Right.
We're able to emphasize, like Adam and I are both good at like being leaders and like putting the first foot forward, and so we're both able to do that. And then we also are able to keep each other in check if needed a little bit, because we both definitely need that sometimes.
Yeah.
That I mean, like he'll get too busy on a story, or I'll get too busy taking photos or something that we forget that like, oh, we are the editors-in-chief. Like maybe we should do the chiefly things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what's it like trying to tell stories through photos versus actually writing stories for the O'Colly?
It's actually very similar to writing whenever you talk about like imagery writing. So the perfect photo for an article is one that is gonna like exemplify what the words are saying through a photo. You want to capture that moment in time and be able to show somebody that photo and be able to like, you can tell them what the photo is through a sentence that you're writing in the article. That's kind of how I think of it. And I continually try to make sure I'm telling a story with the photos I'm taking, and I'm not just like, oh, Spencer Sanders is standing on the sideline, click. Like he's got to like be showing something. Like there's got to be like emotion, or like there's some kind of like meaning behind the way that he's standing or what he's doing, and things like that.
Yeah. So how many times do you guys meet in a week for the O'Colly? What is it like getting prepared and organizing everybody's work?
Yeah, you want me to take this?
Yeah.
She's
Counting it all out.
Yeah.
Sunday, Tuesday, 1, 2, 3
Every day.
department meetings,
Yeah.
and then Thursdays all day for working on the paper. So a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it really is like a 7-day type deal.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not in the newsroom every day, but like you said, so each Sunday at 4 p.m. we have our editors meeting, which is just the editors and us, and we're like, okay, good job last week, but now we're on, like, it's like a football coach. We're on to the next opponent, we're on the next paper, then we plan ahead. Monday, we have our department meetings. So like Monday at 4 o'clock, it's the sports writers meeting. 5 o'clock, it's the news and lifestyle meeting. 5:30 is the photography meeting. And then Tuesdays, usually at about 4 o'clock, is another editor meeting, but this time it's with John Helsley, our faculty advisor. And so he's not in here on the weekend, so he's here. So we have another meeting, and then the same type deal. Like Abby said, Thursday all day. It's our work day. I mean, Thursday we're in there. We're printing out the pages. We're editing. I mean, it's Thursday is you get to see everything. Everything happens on Thursdays.
And we
Yeah.
kind of like to say that like Fridays are like our off day. But I mean, even like in recent weeks, we've had breaking news happen on Fridays. I mean, it's just, it never stops. Every single time that something happens, like you got to be there. You got to be ready to go. So
It sounds like you guys have your hands in every aspect of the O'Colly. How do you balance having those responsibilities with the O'Colly and, of course, other responsibilities like school and things like that?
a lot of time management.
Yeah.
It definitely was a lot to get used to, especially after Adam and I had such a great system this summer. And then we jumped right back into school, and we added the other editors into the mix as well. And so it was like, oh shoot, there's a lot of other people that we got to include on this now and make sure that they're doing their things. And there's a whole lot more content that you produce during the school year, because obviously there's more people on campus, and there's more things going on. So it was definitely a lot to adjust to. And I think that it was beneficial. We had a week before that we did training, and then we did our first paper that week before we even started school. So we kind of got like an understanding of how things are going to work whenever we do the paper, and then we added in school the next week, and then we added in football preview, I think the same week that school started even.
It was chaotic.
Yeah, it was very chaotic just to start. But then you kind of gradually just kind of get into a routine of like, this is what happens every week. You get more used to the meetings that we have happening constantly. And then you I kind of like block out time. Like if I'm in the newsroom, I'm working on Okali, and then if I'm not in the newsroom, like I'll go to the library and I'm like, okay, this is homework time, and some things like that.
Yeah. So that's about all the time we have here for this first segment, but make sure to stick with us because next up we're going to take a look at some of the work Abby has done with her photos. So stick with us here in the writer's room.
My name is James Ramidi. Fired Up Stilly is the name of the business, and I'm one of the owners. We all three met, the three owners, working as employees at a similar place like this. What I hope for is for everybody to feel welcome, like family. Not only do I want students to feel welcome to come here and study and use our free Wi-Fi, but also I want adults and families to be able to come in. We've built a connection with a lot of people, and Stillwater's a big community, so we just want to invite everybody to be able to eventually make their way through our doors. Well, definitely the teas, I would say. Most people fall in love with them. They just got a great amount of energy, gets you going through your day, and it just kickstarts you to get everything you need to done. For myself, it would just have to be, being the owner, owning something that, is able to impact other people's lives, and, the way we can affect our community is something that I really have always wanted to do. We love our clients and our customers that come through every day, and we enjoy getting to know them.
Well, how I got started was my daughter said, Mama, why don't we rent a booth at the Quarter Horse Show? And it was very, very good because, when you're giving your jelly away for free, people really do love it. But when you ask them to pay for it, then that's a true test. What makes my product so unique is the Scotch bonnet pepper. And the Scotch bonnet is the Jamaican pepper. And I had lived in Montego Bay, Jamaica for 4 years. So I learned how to handle the pepper and how to cook with it. I always say, you don't do this on your own. I mean, you have so many people that help you along the way. For me and for many of us, that's my name on that jar, and it better be good.
We are back here in the writer's room with Adam and Abby, and right now we're going to talk about some of Addie's photos for the Okali. So Abby, what is it like preparing photos and taking photos for the Okali?
It's a lengthy process for sure. The nice thing is that I was photo editor last year, and then this year we have another photo editor. Her name is Mackenzie, and she's able to help a lot with the managing of all of the photographers, so that Adam and I can make sure that we're doing our editor-in-chief stuff. So she's really kind of in charge of assigning the photographers, figuring out who has what strengths with what, because not everybody is able to do sports photography. I mean, everyone has different strengths and everyone has different things that they're really good at. Like we have a photographer who loves doing theater, so every time that there's a theater performance, we send her. And then we have 3 boys in specific that love shooting sports, and they're amazing at it. And so those are the 3 sports guys that we have, because everyone else is kind of like not as confident about it. So that's the first thing, is making sure you're picking the right person. You're picking the right one that is going to be able to get the job done. And then of course you go to the event, you take all the pictures that you need to, and then afterwards usually you end up with like double or triple the amount of photos you really need. I end up with like quadruple, even sometimes with football games, because you have that high shutter speed. You just want to capture everything that happens. And so that is probably the most lengthy process, is going through all of the photos and picking the right ones, like which ones are going to have the most emotions, which ones are going to be the sharpest, and which ones are going to be the one that's going to match the story correctly.
So what's some of the most important elements when it comes to selecting specific photographers for specific events?
One of the things we look for is their commitment time, because obviously, I mean, if they aren't working consistently inside the newsroom, then we know they're not going to be working consistently outside the newsroom. Whenever they go to 3-hour basketball games, 5-hour football games, 2-hour like walk around events, I mean, if they're not able and willing to put in that time, then it becomes a big no-no. Like, not worth sending that person out to do that. So that's a big thing, is time commitment. And then we also look for someone who captures the right angles. You kind of want to be bold and courageous in the photos and the angles that you take, because you don't want to be getting the same photo that everyone else is getting. Like, you don't want to have the same ones as the Oklahoman or the Tulsa World. You want to be able to have a unique photo that you're showing. And I think that that's another thing that is a key factor in looking and seeing, okay, who took the chance to go and stand up on a stool instead of just standing on the ground like a normal person, or who took the low angle, or who went behind a curtain and took a photo. I mean, things like that.
Yeah. So what are your specific responsibilities as far as photography goes with the O'Colly?
I pretty much do anything and everything that comes to whenever shooting photos. Like, if there's a photo needed, then I'm probably the first person to be asked besides Mackenzie. I'm so grateful that I've had Mackenzie, because she's been able to help a lot with that it's not all fallen on me, and she's an amazingly talented photographer. And so I think the biggest thing that I'm in charge of is finding the creative things whenever we don't know what visual element to have. There was an example, I think, on the screen that showed a coffee cup picture that we had last winter. We were doing an article about all of the holiday lattes and holiday drinks that all of the coffee shops do. We had no clue what to do. We were like, do we want to just get like a stock photo of like a pumpkin spice latte? Like, that's just like a basic thing. And then we were like, okay, well, wait, there's all these fun cups and like all the decorative festivities and stuff. And so I actually had the blue blanket that was in that background in my car. I took that blanket, I went to every single coffee shop that I could in town and said, give me a fall drink and all of the fall cups and winter cups that you have. And they're like, okay. So then everyone walked into the newsroom that morning, and I had gotten there early, and I was like setting up like this whole like photo booth almost in the corner. And they were like, we know you drink coffee, but we didn't think it was that much.
Yeah.
Like, it's coming up with all the creative different ways to have a visual that goes with the story that's going to be meaningful and not just like a basic stock photo.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's all the time we have for this segment with Abby, but make sure to stick with us, because next up we're going to take a look at some of Adam's work. So stay with us here in the Writer's Room.
Hi, I'm Shauna here at Where the Buffalo Roam in beautiful downtown Pawnee, Oklahoma. We have a lot of beautiful and unique items for sale in the store, but our number one items are Navajo jewelry, Pendleton blankets, and Consuela. It's a great place to shop, a beautiful downtown, so come see us in Pawnee, Oklahoma.
Pecans are staple to Oklahoma. In fact, many of our native pecans come from trees that are older than Oklahoma statehood.
My father's the one that got us started into the pecan picking. I was probably 10 or 12 years old, and we started off with one little mechanical picker that you pulled behind a four-wheeler. Then we'd go home at night and we'd clean them on a TV tray. I guess watching my dad work hard when we were young, and people started trusting him and getting more and more groves, we just kept growing.
Being a relatively new and fresh company, we get to sit in the same room with people who have been a part of the Oklahoma economy for decades.
It's opened a lot of doors. It's gave us quite a bit of exposure, and I think people, will take a small company like us a little more serious. We're just going to continue growing as long as our community lets us and our customers keep on buying, and we'll see where it takes us.
We are back from our break here in the Writer's Room, and right now we're going to take a look at one of Adam's latest stories for the O'Colly. So Adam, why don't you tell me a little bit about your mental motivation story that you wrote for the O'Colly?
Yeah, so it's like you said, it's titled Mental Motivation. So last week in college sports, it was College Football Mental Health Awareness Week, and then also just Mental Health Awareness Week in general among college athletics. So it was an opportunity for football teams. I think there was 124 across the nation that participated in it, and then also just the athletic department here at OSU to just kind of celebrate and raise awareness for mental health awareness. It's something that affects everyone. I mean, you can be the best football player at OSU, you can be the best wrestler, but it doesn't mean you're the best mentally. I mean, because it affects everyone. And so, like the OSU football team, they were wearing like decals, and they had wristbands for, it's called Hilinski's Hope. It was a nonprofit organization. In 2018, there was this quarterback from Washington State named Tyler Hilinski that unfortunately committed suicide, and so his parents, his family started that organization, and they, it's now to the point where this guy from Washington, there's a team in Oklahoma that is honoring him, and so I think that was pretty special. And the team last week, all the athletic teams, they were out at the student union handing out like green candy, because apparently the color for mental health awareness is green. And for me, it was just like a regular story in the process. I mean, it was just a regular weekly story for me, but I felt like there was a lot more of a personal impact because, I mean, let's be honest, I think everyone struggles with mental health at one point or another. So, like I said, treated it like a regular story, but it meant a little more to me because of that.
Yeah. So with those stories that are a bit more serious, but also maybe hold a little more weight in your personal life, what is it like preparing for those stories?
Well, I mean, I think it's honestly easier to prepare because you understand. Like, you can relate to the subject, you can relate to people, the people that you're talking to. So in that regard, it's easier, because if someone tells you, oh, I struggle with this, you know exactly what they're going through because you went through it. It was kind of the same deal with I know last week I talked to you about the cross-country story I wrote. Same type deal, like a family member with cancer passed away. I mean, it's the same type of deal. So for me, that's what I like. It's really tough. It's tough stuff to deal with, but it does make it easier because of that personal connection.
Yeah. So in your story, you talked about Coach Gundy's initiatives that he's kind of taken on to help with mental health among the team. What do you think about that? I found that pretty unique to have, the head coach also taking part in not just this week of mental health awareness, but for the whole season. What do you think that says about Coach Gundy? Yeah,
I mean, I think it says a lot about him. He is like an old school coach. I mean, his coaching methods are pretty old school, but that is kind of a new trend in my opinion. I mean, he notices that people struggle with mental health, and I think it's a trend in college sports too. I mean, college sports are so much different now than what they used to be. I mean, you have billion-dollar TV contracts, you've got NIL, you have team psychologists, which honestly I think it's necessary. I mean, these guys go through a lot. I've seen instances where, like, kickers, maybe they miss a big field goal in a big game. Some of them have gotten death threats. Like, folks, it's just a game. I mean, it's a sport. It means a lot to people, but at the end of the day, it's a game. And so that's what people, I mean, they're students. They do the same thing we do. They go to class, they have the same teachers, have the same assignments. They just are gifted in a different way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's all the time we have here for this segment. But next up, we're going to take a look at some Big 12 football and OSU football. So stay with us for that next up on the Writers' Room.
I'm Kristen Hawkins. I went to Oklahoma State University here in Stillwater in 99 to 2004. I've always felt like Stillwater needed more family-friendly things to do, and we have opened up AR Workshop. We do everything from knitting blankets that can be done in a 3-hour class. We create doormats and porch signs. The Christmas wreaths with our yarn that we use for the blankets. We also do, we just started a new project for gnomes, and we've done pumpkins during the fall. But our big thing that we do here are interior signs. Our designs are extremely unique to AR Workshop. Customers come in, everything is here for them to do. They create everything. They can be as hands-on as they want. They came in here to relax and have fun, and that they are proud of their project that they've made.
Ace in the Bowl salsa started many, many years ago. I was trying to find a recipe to take to a family gathering, and so I started messing around with different recipes, and I took a little bit from here and a little bit from there, and I came up with a salsa that is truly unique. Ace in the Bowl salsa is an olive oil-based salsa with tomatoes, green chilies, green onions, and black olives. There's no sugar added, it's gluten-free, low calorie, low carb, low fat, low sodium. So it's a very, very, very good alternative to any snack you may want. As of right now, I'm just looking to be in Oklahoma and having a successful business within the state. If my grandkids could ever take it over when they're old enough, that would be my dream.
Welcome back to our final segment for today here in the Writers' Room. So we're going to take a look at some OSU football and some Big 12 football. I've got some stats here. This past week, Sanders had 297 yards total, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 1 throwing touchdown to Green. What does that say about Spencer Sanders and his versatility?
You want me to take this?
Yeah, you take it.
Well, no, I think Spencer Sanders, I mean, he's evolved a lot. He's matured. I think he's, in his fourth year here as a starter. I mean, he knows this offense better than anyone else. And it also says a lot, I think, about the coach's trust in him. Like Coach Gundy said multiple times, we let Spencer do whatever he wants. Because, I mean, he's earned it. Like I said, he knows the playbook. So he's really developed as a dual threat quarterback as well. He can throw the ball, he can run, and a lot of the times he just ends up running the ball anyways. I mean, he is the best he's been as a Cowboy, and he's only going to get better, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So that was a huge game this past weekend for the Cowboys. A great comeback against apparently a tough Texas Tech team for us.
Yeah, they're
now
good.
This week we're facing TCU. What do y'all think about this matchup? What does that mean for the Cowboys, and how could this potential win, hopefully a win, set the Cowboys up for success later on in the season?
I think this definitely is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest game that this team could probably have, pending if they get into the Big 12 football championship or whatever bowl game they end up in. I mean, we've seen the last couple of weeks that these Big 12 teams are coming to fight. You've seen them like pushing even more. They're pulling their best plays that they can. And they're not afraid to be bold and make choices that they probably wouldn't normally take. It's very much seen like taking photos too, that it's not normal plays that are happening. And so I think that that's a big factor in it, that they have to be, I think OSU has to be prepared for the unexpected, because they're being unexpected. So I think that they should expect that with the rest of the teams that they face this season, especially TCU.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously this is the game. I mean, this is the 2 undefeated teams in the Big 12. And these TCU, OSU, the only teams left. So honestly, I mean, it sets each one up in better position for the Big 12 championship. I mean, either way, even if OSU loses, they're still might be favored to go down to Arlington for the Big 12 championship, but it also puts more pressure on them. If they lose, actually, either way, I feel like it puts more pressure on them to perform later. Because if they lose, then they're not only going to have to win out probably, but they're also looking for other teams to lose as well.
Yeah. So, Abby, my next question is for you in regards to sports photography, especially in football. What is it like trying to take pictures for football games at OSU versus lifestyle shots?
Scary. It's very scary at times, especially whenever I'm in the end zone. My mom always jokes that she wishes that I'm wearing a helmet sometimes when I'm down there, because she's worried that they're going to have a touchdown and they're just going to come smack right into me. But the guys are all super nice, which is the nice thing. I mean, I met a couple of them like just through practices and like being on the sidelines and stuff. And so like just in passing, I've kind of like Brendan Evers has saved me from being tackled in practice once because I was in a very wrong spot, and he goes, "You might want to move over a little." And I was like, "Cool." And sure enough, he was about to go right where I was sitting. And so, I mean, it's nice that the guys, they're aware of what's going on, especially in football. Because, lifestyle, you're usually like kind of in the back, hiding out, or you're setting up like studio stylized shots. It's very low key compared to whenever you're on the football sidelines. And especially in Boone Pickens, those sidelines are tight.
Yeah.
So you are right next to the action, you are right in the midst of everything, and you're getting real up close and personal with the guys occasionally, and it's a lot. But it's so much fun. The adrenaline pumping is exhilarating, and it's so much fun to get those amazing shots that, I mean, sometimes you just press the shutter and then all of a sudden you get an amazing shot like that. You don't even expect what's going to happen, because you don't expect them to run whatever way. You can predict that they're going to run a certain way, but then they're going to run the opposite way.
Yeah.
So you're always staying on your feet, and so it's scary, but it's an exciting scary.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So my next question is for you, Adam.
Yeah.
And going into this game against TCU, what is the key for the Cowboys to win against TCU?
Well, I think the obvious key for them is stopping the TCU's quarterback, Max Duggan. It's crazy because he started the season as backup. I mean, I think there's no way he's going to be, like, he should be their starter for the rest of the season. Coach Gunny was saying, he's like, yeah, I think he's faster than a lot of our other guys on defense. So he can do it all. He's like Spencer Sanders a lot in a lot of respects. So that's the big deal. If OSU could contain Max Duggan, because he's like Spencer Sanders in the sense that if he gets chased out of the pocket, he can run too. And I know the secondary, it's a young secondary for OSU. They've gotten exposed. And many times this season. I know you saw it in the second half against Central Michigan. You saw it a little bit against Texas Tech. But also, I do feel like the secondary is improving, but I also feel like Max Duggan is enough to expose them.
Yeah, he's among the top 3 quarterbacks as far as rushing yards go in the Big 12. He's had 14 touchdowns on the season with just 1 interception. Yeah. What does that say about having to force him to be inaccurate, or how much is our defense going to have to change going into this game versus what we had to do against Texas Tech?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know if they're going to change. Well, I mean, we'll see how much they change, but the OSU defensive line is just about as good as anyone in the country. I mean, you have Trace Ford, Colin Oliver, Ben Kapinski, who's a walk-on, but he's been playing insanely well. Brendan Evers, like you mentioned, all those guys. The front line is big enough to stop Max Duggan, but honestly, I think the worry should be the secondary. And also what you said, the stat, I think it also says a lot about the Big 12 in general. The Big 12 is a good quarterback conference.
For sure.
I mean, they've got Spencer Sanders, the guy from Kansas, Jalen Daniels. He's awesome. There's just a lot of good players in this league.
Yeah, so with the last maybe just 2 seconds here from each of you guys, what do you think the score is going to be this weekend?
I think TCU is going to win, probably by 1 touchdown.
Oh, man.
1 or 2 touchdowns.
Heartbreaking.
See, yeah, I think TCU is going to win, but just by a field goal. And I'd say they've won twice at TCU since 1947.
Yeah.
But
so it looks like I'm the only one who picked OSU for this weekend, but that's all the time we have here today in the Writers' Room. Come back next week and join us in the Writers' Room.
My name's Kayla. I've been here since the beginning, so 4 years. Scratch is more focused on farm and mostly made in Oklahoma products, keeping it local. Sustainability is our biggest thing. That's one of the reasons why this place opened.
I've been the chef here at Scratch for 2.5 years. Started here as a line cook. Our food and drinks are a bit separate entities almost inside the restaurant. So the food is now up to 85% of the products we bring in are raised or grown locally. It's all based off of things that I grew up eating in southern Oklahoma, the things my grandparents ate.
Fresh food, clean food, organic food, sustainability, that's all of our thing. From front of house to back of house, we're able to maintain both with freshness. But made in Oklahoma means we get it straight from the farms that are 20, 30 minutes, another little county away. We get it straight from them.